Someone asked me in the Hustlers University chat, how did I get unplugged from the Matrix? And instead of doing like a big article about it, I decided to do a video on it because it's otherwise I'll end up with this big chunk of content, and now you're just going to end up with a video. So, couple things. Like, I grew up in an extremely blue pill traditional household, in the sense traditional, more like clown world traditional, where my mom basically dominated my dad, and they got divorced after a while, and I grew up with all the the Disney fantasy stuff. Left the house when I was 17 to live together with my is that even a high school sweetheart that young? But whatever. And took things from there. Got into real estate. My first sort of shock was I started out as an assistant in real estate, right? And I started learning about the business. But my first shock was getting into sales and cold calling people. I vividly remember cold calling my first prospect. And the reason why I remember is because I wasn't supposed to do that. Like, I was an assistant. I was supposed to, keep the files in order and do office stuff. I wasn't supposed to call prospects. But I was so fired up about the idea of, taking the phone and actually dialing and making money from it. That was so exciting to me that I just wanted to do it. So one day, I go to one of the private offices, and I found some for sale by owner ads. So people trying to sell their own home, and this was a way. No real estate agent in my office liked to do that, because these people, they don't like real estate agents, or they just want to try themselves. Otherwise, they would have gone to a real estate agent to sell their home, right? So I call my first, and I had this script. I've always been pretty good at scripts. And I go through my script, and I get to the end of it, and the guy says, "Yeah, sure, man, I'll think about it." And I hang up. And I was super excited. And so I decided to come clean after a day or something to the office owner, basically saying, "Hey, man, I called some prospects. I know I'm not allowed or supposed to do that, but I just wanted to try it out." And it was great. Like, I had some guy on the phone, and he's thinking about it. And it's funny to me now that that I'm me at 37. But the office owner said, "No, man, he's not thinking about it. He just blew you off. Like, that's it. He just basically said, 'Fuck off.' And you took it." And it's fine. He immediately forgave me, just like I would do with a young office assistant. Like, honestly, I would think it's awesome. And I suspect that in reality, he really loved me calling prospects, even though I wasn't supposed to do that. So that was sort of a weird moment, that people would actually lie to you just to get you off the phone. And I see that a lot in Hustlers University, with people saying, "Yeah, the prospect said like XYZ, what should I say now?" And usually what they're saying is, "Fuck off." And usually the right response is to just, call the next prospect, go on, move on, have a queue of prospects. So that was a moment. But the big, so there are two more like big things. And one is in 2008, 2009, I was in real estate. I had just leased a new office, like my own. I had my own office, right? This was like a couple of years after I was my office assistant experience. I grew pretty quickly, got my own office, and from 1 month to the next, maybe even a week. Like 1 week you had like 20 showings, things going on, etc. And then the whole financial crisis hit, and everything went dead, like completely, like zombie town. Nothing was happening. And I had just, gotten into a new lease, which was a pretty expensive lease. I was banking on the future me. That's a Tristan Tate quote, by the way. I have faith in my future self. Love that quote. Well, except, I mean, that time I didn't foresee the financial, meltdown. Anyhow, that fact was not really my awakening. What was my awakening was that I found out that homes were being sold for way less than the mortgages that were resting on them, right? These homes were underwater. So you might have a $300,000 mortgage and the home would get sold for like $200,000. And I remember having my first client and going through that experience and finding out that the bank would actually they would be okay if you didn't pay back the $100,000. Like because I some clients that I had could pay it back in like chunks, like over the course of 10 years or something. But some of them, they got fired, or they separated, or one fled to whatever country in the world, and there was no way in this lifetime for them to pay off that 100,000, right? So, sorry, I got interrupted by my kids there. So one day I'm talking to the bank, and I basically say, these people are never going to pay it back, not in a million years, and like the home isn't worth more than this. This is just it, right? And the lady from the bank says, okay, well, sell it then. So I ask her, like, what happens to the 100K? Like, 200 here, 300 there in debt. Like, what happens to the 100K? And she says, yeah, we'll write it off. And I'm like, what do you mean you write it off? Like, where does it go? And she didn't really understand. And like we were talking, like it's two people talking to each other that don't really understand what's happening. The only thing she knew was the fact that she could say yes to something like this. So I dig deep into this, right? And over the course of like 2 or 3 years, I become the real estate agent in the Netherlands for doing short sales, selling your home even though the mortgage is higher. Like I get on national TV. I get interviewed by the national news, etc. I become the guy for this, because what I found out, and this is like my biggest like matrix, taking me out of the matrix moment. Money isn't real. Debt isn't real. It was all bullshit. It wasn't real. The reason that she could say, yeah, sure, we'll write it off, is because that money was never there in the first place. Maybe in another video I'll go deep into this. But for now, just know that a bank, they can have like, let's say for example, $1,000 in the actual vault. Right? They don't have. I don't think they have cash money in the banks anyway now these days. But let's say they have $1,000 in the vault, and these guys are lending out like $10,000, $100,000 based on that 1,000. They're just multiplying it, and it's not real. And when I really understood that sort of detached me from that. It was so bizarre. Like I vividly remember my going deep into that and just realizing all of this is bullshit. It's bullshit. It's not real. So I become the guy for that, and I talked to a lot of people in that period. Most people don't understand up to this day. Most people just don't get it because it's so weird. People just don't understand. So that was one thing. And the last like nail in my getting out of the matrix coffin was actually COVID. Like when that started out, like within maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, I said, this is bullshit. They're showing like the coffins in the street piling up, right? They're doing the news about people dying and the funeral homes can't, contain it. And the Chinese people falling over in the street dead. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, no, this is bullshit, man. Because this is exactly like someone like me. If you want to manipulate a population and you want to do mass media manipulation, someone like me would do it exactly this way. This is how I would do it. I would show the dramatic stuff and the images. And in the meantime, nope. I mean, flu became non-existent, right? There was no flu anymore. Like, I vividly remember the statistic. It was like, flu is down 99.9% or something. They said it in the Netherlands. And I was looking at this, and I remember talking to my father, saying, hey, don't you think it's weird that there's no, that it just doesn't exist anymore? Don't you think that's weird? Has never happened in the past, like, centuries. And now, all of a sudden, and you know what he said? He said the same thing to me that he said to me when I explained to him that money wasn't real and debt wasn't real. He said, well, they wouldn't lie to us. Why would they do that? And I think those are the main things that sort of separated me from the Matrix. And I don't really talk about many of those things in Hustlers University because they don't directly affect you making more money. And that's what Hustlers University is about. But since you asked, I decided, well, let's do the speech and let's talk about it. But that's actually the main things that got me out of the Matrix, sort of made me drift away from the system. Just basically seeing how manipulated everything was. Like I remember going on national TV I remember doing a pilot for national TV in the Netherlands. And I remember them instructing a 6 or 7 year old child about when to come into the room and what to say to the parents and how to look, like the facial expression. Dude, everything you see on TV is fake. Everything. Like, so it was a little unnerving. So everything I see on TV is fake. Money is fake. Debt is fake. COVID is fake. It was so bizarre that it really blew my mind. In that's probably the best way to say it. It expanded my mind, showed me that it's not, a lot of it is not real. And then I recently went to some events. I also went to Dubai, and I got a chance to see the elite and the elite lifestyle, and some of the most prominent people of the war room. And the rules only exist for those out of the loop. If you're in the loop, the rules aren't real. And everyone, and I swear to God, I was on a yacht. I won't say who was with me, but a decent amount of people were with me. That impressive people. Everyone understood that all of this wasn't real. Like the rules aren't real, the money isn't real, etc. So there's an echelon of society that really does understand this. And what we're trying to do with Hustlers University is get you to that station so that we can all enjoy the privileges of being there. And I'd love to see you there very, very soon. So, I hope that helps. Keep working on your skills. And if there's anything else that you want me to cover, just let me know. You're watching a Hustlers University exclusive video, so you won't find this anywhere else on YouTube. This is purely for Hustlers University members. If you have a subject that you would like me to get into, to expand upon, make sure you tell me in the personal finance chat, add the hashtag that is below on the screen here, and I'll be sure to pick it up and make a video about it. Talk to you soon.